Hey guys, so in honor of the subject of this video, I'm really going for that cloudy with a chance of meatballs guy look. I'm Flint Lockwood, and I approved this message. Alright, let's start with a basic overview of how does a book become a movie. Basically, there's three steps. Step one is an option. An option is kind of like right swiping someone on Tinder. The vast majority of right swipes obviously don't turn into relationships, but you're just kind of saying, I'm potentially interested. So in the context of a book becoming a movie, that means it's like a studio or producer coming to you, the author, and they're saying, we want to buy the option for a certain period of months or years that just allows us the right to make the movie if we decide later on that it's something we definitely want to do. And just as the vast majority of right swipes on Tinder don't turn into actual relationships, the vast majority of option movie deals don't turn into actual movies. Now, step two is development. In our dating app metaphor, this is kind of the part of the relationship where you're texting back and forth, and it could turn into some real life rendezvous, or it might just sort of fizzle out, right? You kind of start forgetting to write them back and you kind of lose interest and maybe you start messaging with someone else. So in terms of making a movie, development is basically where a screenwriter is hired. The screenwriter writes the screenplay, that is the script of the movie, gives it to the studio, the executives there read it, they provide comments, feedback, things they want changed. It goes back to the writer makes some changes, goes back to the studio makes some more suggestions, and this process can, in the case of movies, go on forever until the writer moves on or the studio moves on, somebody sort of loses interest and the project kind of peters out. And just like the vast majority of people that message each other on Tinder don't ever actually hook up, the vast majority of movies that are under development don't ever move into stage three, which is production. Now, a lot of people are on Tinder more just to hook up rather than to find like true love or a long-term relationship. So we might say that the final stage of Tinder or stage three production is when you finally meet up in life for the first time, your faces collide, and you hope that they collide in a soft, romantic, sparks flying way instead of like you bump into them and break your nose kind of way. And unfortunately, I'm speaking from experience. And as far as a movie, when a movie moves into production, that means you actually hire the cast, the crew, you get the cameras out, and you start filming. So in both cases, you can see how it's kind of a funnel. You start with this very wide group of people that you're right swiping on, that you're optioning, and then you move into development where you're writing back and forth or submitting different drafts of the script. And then finally, some rare occasions, this all culminates in stage three, production, a meetup in real life, or starting to film the actual movie. All right, so let's talk about what's been happening with my book, We Should Hang Out Sometime. Now, I know how much you guys hate it when YouTubers like tweet things like, I've got some really exciting stuff in the works, wink smiley face emoji, but I can't tell you about it yet. And you're like, if you can't tell me about it, then why are you sending me all these winking emojis on Twitter? Like, just if you can't say anything, then don't say anything about it. So I certainly sympathize with that feeling. I think most cases you'd find that the reason that people cannot tell you all the reasons is because they're legally prohibited from doing so. So I'm going to tell you everything that I think I'm allowed to tell you. You're still going to have a lot of questions afterwards, but that's not because I'm withholding information. That's because I just don't know the answers either. The reality is, in a situation like this, I, the author, have almost no control about what happens from here on out. So basically last year around the time the book came out, a producer read it, he loved it, and he acquired the option. But he's just one guy and you need a lot more people than that to make a movie. So he went out and found a studio. The studio acquired the option from him, but he stayed attached as a producer. Now, as I said, it's super common for books to be optioned. That in itself is not a big deal. But what's more exciting is that the studio hired a screenwriter to adapt the book into a screenplay. I've hung out with her, she's fantastic. She writes for a TV network that you've also definitely heard of. So the project has moved from an option to actually being in development. That is, the screenwriter has actually written a draft of the script, like it exists, which, to be very clear, does not mean that there's necessarily ever going to be a movie made, but I think in and of itself is just like really cool. Now, with a book that is a memoir, you know, you're expecting when you read it that this is an actual true story, like these are the facts as they actually happened. But when you see a movie that's based on a true story, you're like, all right, maybe there was someone with a name something like this that lived in the past century. So when I met with the production team, I came in with very low expectations and didn't try to ask for a lot. I was like, look guys, like, if there's a character named Josh, I think that would be great. But so far in the process, I've been really pleasantly surprised at how much the screenplay is actually a movie version of what really happened in my life. Like, I don't think that they should hire me to play myself. Like, if they wanted to, I'd be happy to do it, but like, I'm not a trained actor, so I think it would probably make more sense to hire an actor to do it. So in the comments, please let us know, who would you like to see cast as Josh? Personally, of course, I think that it should be Flint Lockwood. One last thing, today is the last day to win one of 10 free signed copies of the new paperback edition extended happy ending version of We Should Hang Out Sometime. Click in the link in the underbar, make sure you've entered.
AMPUTEE